into this country through enough sources. Some are smuggled into the country. When troops go into combat in war-torn areas, some of them manage to smuggle weapons in. When criminals attack armed security men, like it happened recently, when they kill them, they take their weapons. Also, because this society is has an incredible level of criminality, some armed members of the armed forces and the police and NDLEA sell weapons to criminals.
Attention to questions about insecurity, the strategy, the approach, the questioning by the president to the service chiefs. We've got Chooks Maha, a security consultant, joining us via Zoom this morning. Good morning and thank you for joining us today. Well, several perspectives about the position, what should be done, the meetings that have been held by the president with the governors, security arm of it, and even the service chiefs, as it were. Now, from what you've seen and heard, the president has said certain equipments are bound to arrive. Just be a little bit patient. How do you internalize that?
Well, I think it's a step in the right direction coming from the presidency. When I'm talking about presidency, not just Mr. President alone, but all those who make up the presidency. However, I have said before, and I'll keep on saying again, we must see some element of governance in this. Because for security to work, it must come from the top, stemming down to the bottom. Mr. President is still the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. He gives the final say. And if we read his lips and we know that he means what he says, I think it's a step in the right direction. But needless to say, we've had such things before. Equipment's on the way. We pray they actually come. We also pray that these equipment will not be obsolete, they'll be functional, and that the people to use them will be trained on how to use this equipment.
You know, many are trying to understand the thinking, the rationale behind the governors being quoted to have said they needed bailouts for security vote purposes in the face of all of these questions that are being asked about insecurity. Do you understand the thought process behind that?
Well, the truth of the matter, there are so many schools of thought. It depends on which quarters is being looked at. Are you looking at those who are in the business of security, providing security for the state? Are you looking at those who govern security, that's the politicians? Or are you looking at those who are the end users, the likes of you and I? So these are the three schools of thought looking at it now. The people, those in government, and those to do the job. Now, I've said, and I'm going to repeat here again, I'm looking at now the security of politics versus the politics of security. Now, we have a situation, not just in Nigeria, but the whole of Africa, where those who are in office want to perpetuate their stay in office. And they will do anything to stay in office. And that's when I talk about the security of politics. Then the politics of security is which of the security agencies will best serve for this purpose. What we have now in Nigeria, in the north, east, south, all forms of banditry, insurgencies, and all that are offshoots of the political system. Let's not kid ourselves there, because we have the willpower. If we so decide to put an end to all this menace, it can be done within 1 month. Just 1 month, it can be brought all that. But the question is, who is ready now, to take the bull by the horn, to ground the officers, stuff like that. So the issue here is that governance, Mr. President must come out. He must have the willpower ready. He must breathe out the right act to his service chiefs. And again, too, before that time or before now, have the resignation letter of all the service chiefs ready and give them their KPIs. Tell them to move down to these areas, all of them, not to stay in the lofty position there in Abuja. They move down to the place, use experienced soldiers, use experienced policemen, experienced DSS officers, and all that. I'm not sending, young, kiddies, what we call spring chickens out there to go fight the war. We have people there. Nigeria has the best in Africa, and I want to see if we use what we have, we can win this war against insurgency, crime, and all forms of menace within our society. We have what it takes.
But
I'm very optimistic about that.
Yeah, so when the governors now talk about this security funds, as it were, many just suggest that, look, this is just sidestepping the main issue and attempting to throw money at the problem, which doesn't address the fundamental framework of what needs to be addressed?
Okay, I'll help you out. There is one fund that is never in any way audited, and that is security budget or the security fund. Any expenses on security is never touched or looked into. It just goes like that. So when governors are clamoring, okay, security fund, security this, it's one way to milk money from the coffers out into the federal private pockets. Now, if you've noticed also within recent times now, almost all the governors are gangling up, trying to form their own security agencies, to run parallel with the federal security agencies. Why? Because of this issue of clamor of perpetual stay in office. It's not for you and I. Everybody's just thinking of their own selfish needs and how to go about achieving their own personal gains, as we've seen. However, I want to say here, we have what it takes. The only thing that will happen is a little bit of restructuring, a little bit of training, and moral boosting of the men we have on ground. And I can assure you, we will get it. We'll get to it. We'll get it. It's just a little bit of it.
Well, there are many issues that you have raised. Okay. There are many issues that you have raised, Mr. Maha. One of them, you said that the different shades of insecurity that we have as a result of the political system. Just what do you mean by that? Because you know and I know that the issues of insecurity predates this president, where he said he needs to take the lead role and all of that. So what do you mean when you say our insecurity is a product of the political system, and that if we can correct that, it'll all be done with in 1 month? What do you mean?
Yeah, I'll give you a good example. One of those is my own personal opinion. I see no reason. They say those who live by the sword should die by the sword. Simple. If we have people who go into insurgency, who go into banditry of any form, blowing up pipelines or anything, if you do that, why would I need to grant you amnesty? That is one. It's a political thing. Now, why would I waste taxpayers' money for these same people who have misused and abused and destroyed taxpayers' infrastructure? That's another thing. Now, we find that also some people are making so much gain from what is going on. We're spending more of money which should have been used for other infrastructure, whether it's for the healthcare system, educational system in this country, now all fighting a particular cause, and that's the issue of insecurity. Now, are we saying we do not know those behind them? Because each form of insecurity has a sponsor. There are people behind it who supply them the money, who supply them the food, the fueling, the equipment, the information. They must have sponsors. So let's go behind, get the sponsors first, nab them and get rid of them. Now, we need to change the system where you commit a crime, it's not just a laissez-faire thing to make or give like maximum punishment. Maximum. You have to be, okay, we'll be talking about rape, increase the tenure of jail term for rapists. What about those who are insurgency? They must be taken up the same way. You have taken a life. We can't spare you. Your life must go. All those people you've lost. People have lost their lives. People have lost their property. So much insecurity. Capital flight from this country. People whose investments were there all done. And now at the end of the day, these same people, you want to grant them amnesty? No. And that's why I say it's a political issue. We need to go back to the drawing board. Reframe what we need to have. Get what we need to go and put this shit out. And that's why people are losing confidence. We have what it takes, I can assure you. So Mr. Presidency and those around him should sit down, including the legislation.
Well, the president has also said, you referenced something the other time about the fact that those who are behind all of these insecurity issues, said we know them. Who are the people that knows them? And it also begs the question, when you said the other time that, the issue of security, various security agencies ought to step in. Which security agency should play the lead role in which area of banditry? Which begs the question, of all the security agencies that we have, 27 of them, we've only been talking about a few of them, the police, the army, and all of that. What do you think is wrong with the others that they haven't really been as frontal as they ought to be? Oh, wow. Well, I guess we'll have to, hopefully get him back to have that conversation with us because
when you reference the fact that, this is something that we have also talked about a few times here, about the fact that there are so many agencies of government. We only talk about the police and we only talk about the army, the Air Force, and all of that. So what's going on with others? I think it'll be good, if he can also give us his perspective on that one.
Well, yes, we're hoping that we'll just get that connection back on. But, it's a separate issue, and several meetings have been held. But we'll come back to this, I guess, in just a moment.
If there is any falsehood that the Nigerian people have swallowed, is the indivisibility or the facade, that, the military is one entity that, cannot be divided. That's not true. In fact, it is that same institution that is deeply divided, if we would speak the truth. Because if you are going to get the solutions to your problems, you would better come out clear and speak them out.
Yes, Mr. Maha, we were having that conversation about all security agencies in Nigeria, 27 of them, and we've only been talking about just about 2 of them. Why is that? Can you hear me?
Yeah, the truth of the matter is that there's this rivalry. Yeah, I can hear you. I know. The truth of the issue is that we have so much rivalry against, amongst the security agencies in the country for now. There's so much bad blood amongst them. Who is more superior to who and why is that the case? Now, the president, in the means, when he has his meetings with his chief of staff, the inspector general of police, the chief of army staff, the chief of naval staff, and all that, at that meeting, everybody's the same. But when they go back to their various forces or silos, a different thing comes up again. So the question is, who leads this formation there in any of these locations? If you're sending people down to the northeast or you're sending them to the south, somebody should lead. Now, a brief must come up, and this person who is to take this leadership role must be appointed among the joint chiefs. Once that is done and there's a harmony there, I can assure you we can get that. That's one. 2, the second one question which you asked, that you said you notice that we have very few of the agencies that go down to go fight for the nation as it seems. Now, the truth of the matter, not all the security agencies are trained for this purpose. Some are trained for, gathering information. Some are trained for hard confrontational warfare. Some of them are trained to handle civilian warfare, as it may seem. But the truth of the matter, I must say, is that if you look at them, there is indeed some element of disparity by what training and the kind of weaponry they carry. So you must be careful who you send down for such offenses, as we see, and for what purpose. But what we can do, we can have a joint task force, a joint training where we mix both the police, the army, the navy, the air force, including members of the DSS, NIA, all together, and we have the best of it. We call it a general a task force, or give some other name. But we draw people from all the forces together to be led by somebody who we think has not only the background knowledge, but someone who is liberal enough to respect all the agencies they're present. We'll get the best.
Well, Mr. Maha, if you say that there is that rivalry among the security agencies, at the same time that the president has said that they must work together, they must collaborate, shouldn't we have some heads rolling already?
Yeah, like I said, at the top, there's no rivalry. With the head, there's no rivalry. But you see, the head of each of these agencies, like I said, need to drum this fact to their reportees who are going to work in the field. That is where the issue is. Because when they go out, it's a different thing entirely. With the heads themselves, they don't have a problem. You see the chief of army staff having a good chat with the inspector general of police, vice also with the Air Force or the Navy. They work, with so much harmony. But when it comes down to the rank and file, it's a different ball game entirely. So they need to see this to be exemplified by their senior officers with the junior ones below to ensure that there's harmony there on the war ground, there on the playing ground.
Also suggests from what you have said now, Mr. Maha, suggests that all of that conversation that the president has been having, especially the one that he says that they need to rejig the architectural structure of Nigeria, the security structure, architecture of Nigeria is a mirage. It's never going to happen. If only at the top, that happens, and then, the people who are supposed to execute these things, they are still at, variance, always in contention with one another, then it means it's a mirage, right?
Now, I'll tell you, there's a way out. If it's just one agency going, that is very possible because that agency takes full control. But having 2 or 3 agencies going down there for this common cause, it means that they must meet in a place where they have what they call a joint brief session together. They are briefed together. All the whole agencies are briefed together by the heads of these 3 people all together. And once that is done, they have this responsibility to work as one in unity.
Well,
there must be a common briefing ground.
As we wind down on this one,
agency come and brief all men together. So,
all right.
Yeah.
There's also a thing that, look, they can have all the meetings, we can come up with all those suggestions, but they still think that as presently set up, we can't achieve much with this. And if we don't go back to the laws, the enabling laws, to adjust some things, we'll keep getting the same kind of results, but only in different shades. Do you share the same thought?
Yes, to some extent. Yes and no, I do. What you said technically is correct, but practically, we can achieve something good. After all, I know in certain states you have what they call joint task force, and they work, in harmony because the governors bring them together, address them as the head of security of the state, and it sees to it because it goes out on monitoring to do this. So, you see, the question is governance and the willpower. If we have somebody who takes charge over there, who goes to see the boys, out there,
that joint task force, or those joint task forces, they've got special provision beyond the regular remuneration that they get. So the issue of welfare across board is huge. I mean, we were told a couple of days ago that men in the front lines, they were getting, it was shocking, 2,000 naira a day. How do you deal with that? I'm afraid those things happen sometimes, but there you go. So we have real...
yes.
Okay,
yes.
Just wrap your thoughts up on that before we go. Can you? Okay.
Okay then. It's true. The remuneration is very, very needful. Like I said, boosting their morale. Everybody knows that we all need these things. It's not just a question of, yes, you signed an undertaking when you were joining the military of the security agencies that your life is for service of government and the government can use you as it so deems it. Yes, that's true. But you're still alive. You're a human being. You have needs. You have wants. So when you go for such missions, you are meant to pay special allowances. You might want to call it as an allowance, whatever allowances you want to call it. Make sure this money is come in. Make sure this money is going to the account or they're getting physical cash. And as you boost their morale, I can assure you, you get the best out of them. Everybody wants money.